I don't know, like already I'm noticing it just in terms of like I was on the highway today and I'm such a nervous passenger. And so like Fresh Kills is driving us from Rona to Rona to pick up some supplies and shit. Um and essentially like we're hitting on the highway and I'm watching like everyone's either asleep at the wheel or like crazy aggressive risky and shit. And it just feels like every time I'm on the road, it's even nuttier and nuttier because everyone's been in this like enraged state, trapped at home, and so it's just gonna have its impacts on society. And since a lot of people don't go to therapy, it's gonna come out in some weird ticking time bomb ways. Um, and so I'm just sort of predicting that.
I predict
Once
a lot more hedonism than violence. I think there's going to be a
that's because you're living
reaction.
in Montreal.
Ooh, that's a good point. My city is more likely to pop a bunch of mollies and have orgies.
Yeah. See, Toronto's more likely to like eat the rich, or the rich are more likely to eat the poor.
That is fascinating. And I really like that you said that. So, okay, let's talk about being in Toronto. You've rapped about Toronto. It's
Yeah.
like, so like, I live in the city that willingly re-elected a fucking crack kid, the 416. That line like stuck out to me because it's very like, I mean, that's exactly what happened. So, I mean, there's nowhere else to like put it.
And
Um,
now it's his brother running things. It's the crackhead's brother who was a fucking coke dealer back in the day, and like a suburban coke dealer to top things off. And man, he's running shit, and
Yes.
he's pretty much just telling everyone, "No sick days, fuck you. I'm gonna go build some highways."
Yeah, it's wild. Like when you think about it. But what's it like to be in Toronto? I mean, I've seen you post a lot of aggressive things on the book with regards to things like rent and
Yeah.
stuff. And I'll be honest, I'm in Montreal. If I think I have problems, I don't by comparison to you and a lot of the more rent issues and working life. Like my homeboy lives in Toronto. He lives young in Eglinton area.
Mm.
And I've heard him complain about shit where it feels like he has to spend more time putting into figuring out how he's going to pay his bills, thus more resources, and therefore it's a slower ascent. What's crazy is this is after the lack of taxes, right? Because y'all get taxed less, so you get higher numbers. Like, yo, I
Yeah.
found out what his net is, and his net was way closer to mine than I was like, no, 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 no. You know, sometimes you hear some numbers, not to say I make, it's just different positions, but like when this, anyway, years ago. Um,
But I mean
and
that
and then you get
tax
to the
difference is a
point,
percentage. Yeah.
but like
Sorry,
it
go
ends
ahead.
up like it's a pretty big percentage. It manifested to like a sizable number. Um, like we're talking a good 150, 200 a paycheck. Like it's
Hmm.
pretty big, in terms of like what it could benefit, or at least 100,
Okay.
as
At
your
least a
salary
hundred.
goes. Yeah, yeah, for real. It was like a sizable amount. Yo, Quebec gets taxed heavy, like heavy,
I'd
heavy.
rather I'd rather lose $100 a month than
Yeah, that's where I was
nine
going
hundred
with it.
bucks a month.
So you get to this next part where the rent gets brought up into it, and then it's like, bro, that's how much you pay. And then I went to the grocery store because I've been to Toronto now a couple of times, and I remember going around the grocery store, and I went my usual run of what I would normally eat. And I was looking at the prices, and I was like, yo, I may as well just fucking order food at this point, because like the actual price of like produce and shit isn't that far off from what I was spending at like McDonald's or whatever, which
Oh
is
no,
very
yeah.
different than Montreal. So I thought that was fascinating too. Like, how expensive is Toronto?
It is unrealistically expensive. It is like, put it to you this way, that shitty apartment I moved into was $800 when I moved here, and now that exact same apartment with zero renovations is going for 1,600 a month.
Wow, that's a
Yeah.
lot
And
more than I
so
pay for a 4.5.
yeah, 1,600 for a shitty fucking basement apartment that like nobody would want to live in, and that's like the standard now. Like most basements are going for 1,800, and there's nothing that isn't a basement because they tore down all the apartments to build condos, and so the only thing left is people converting their basements into a place to live, or an overpriced ass condo starting in the hundreds, like 100,000s and shit. Um, and so you're just like, okay, well, we're doomed in that respect. And also, you realize how much daylight plays into like mental health and shit when you don't have windows. And then additionally, like when you're living in people's basements, the noise bleeds through, so you're like a lot more, you know, at their beck and call, and they'll like tell you specific times you gotta shut shit down. And then so yeah, you're trying to like offset this, and you're working, and the minimum wage is like $11 for the longest time. Now it's 14, and so you're all your money is going towards your rent, or you're trying to cheap out on food. And I realize it is the cycle of like, so your only value is your labor, but the thing is, you're sacrificing your health to eat cheaper food to save on housing, which is going to make your labor less effective faster, and you're going to be, not only are you like working against this fucking uphill just trying to save against housing, but you're also putting your body through shit so you can't work for as long just to save bucks on that house that shouldn't be that expensive to begin with. Not to mention like fucking, I don't know, man. Also there's transportation, which is like in Montreal, the bus pass is like 80 ish per month kind of thing.
Yeah, something 85, I think now.
Yeah, and it was like 160 in Toronto,
Yeah,
which
that
is
was
literally
another.
double.
Yeah. I don't know how to respond to that. I looked into it because I was curious. It's a lot bigger. Like, it's sizably bigger. Everything about the TTC is bigger. So, like, it's hard for me to say, like, is that a fair price or not? Like, it's just so much bigger.
Well, the one thing though that I will say is that like, if it ran normally, then fine. But it breaks down every single fucking day, and you end up having to either Uber or like, yeah, basically you end up having to Uber, which costs more money. So you can't make it to work on time ever. You end up living in the outskirts of the city, just to save a buck. I don't know, man. This shit just feels like a rigged game, you know. So after a while, you're like, okay, it kind of fucks with you, fucks with your mental health, and it's kind of starting to become like a lot of what I rap about. Realizing that like I can't really change any of the situations I'm in, but the one thing I can do is I can put these feelings that a lot of people have into more simple, palatable terms, and kind of just guide everyone's rage so that it's not misdirected at each other, but rather at the actual culprit of why things are hard. You know what I'm saying?
It's very Rage Against the Machine of you.
Yeah. Because, yo, guaranteed, like, rage is going to get misdirected. And the more that gentrification spreads, where it's going to spread to everywhere, I'm seeing it in your hood as well as mine, that's going to put people under pressure and shit, right? And the more people are under pressure, the more they're going to fucking fight against one another type deal, because people don't really have outlets. And the more I remember the times in my life where I was more under the gun for rent, I wasn't thinking as clearly, and I was thinking the world was out to get me, versus the times where I had more things in life, I was more focused on giving back and working with other people. And so
Shit. Okay, I hear what you're saying.
there's like an actual fucking like measured balance that happens to your mental health with that kind of stuff. And so the more people get deprived of that kind of mental clarity, the more shit's just gonna be bleak and rough out there, and people are gonna be like greedy out of need kind of deal, you know, where it turns into like dog eat dog shit. And so it's like it doesn't have to be that way, and I'm
I
trying
don't
to put
think
that
it's
in the world.
gonna. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's because of where I live versus Toronto, but I know that what I'm seeing happen. And yo, shout out Lindell, who says you have some interesting views. Yo, there has been like chat interaction coming through. A few of these questions might not have all been mine.